Welcome to the show. I'm your host for tonight, Samuel Ikan Kimwin, and I'm extremely looking forward to tonight's show. We've got a number of things that we're going to be discussing, talking about, and going through. And side by side, most importantly, we get to answer your questions. So guys, like I usually say, have your questions at the ready. If there's specific questions that you have for myself, for our team, feel free to get those questions ready so that when we open up the phone lines, you can share those questions with us. Now, I'm going to open up by sharing our quick disclaimer. All the information provided and results given are exemplary on this platform, on this video, on this live, and each person's results may vary or differ. Results are based on consistent implementation of strategies, and we advise that you always seek legal and financial advice from a qualified professional. Now, like I always usually add to that as well, if you are struggling to find a qualified financial or legal professional in terms of your property journey, feel free to reach out to us, and me and my team will be happy to help you moving forward in your property journey. Now, we've had a fantastic week. I hope you've had a fantastic week in regards to your property journey. A whole bunch of stuff has been going on, whether positive, negative, or indifferent. And it's really interesting when you're kind of in this property world and you see things happening the way that they're happening, and you get to basically, put your own 2 pence in. You get to basically give your own contribution. So I hope that every single person who's on the live today has been having a productive week. I hope that you've been having a good and fruitful week. But most importantly, I also hope that you've been moving forward in your journey, because that's what it's about. That's why we do the show, in order to help people to move forward in their property journey specifically, and in all other ways that we can help people as well. So without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to get the show straight started tonight. We are going to be opening the phone line in a moment or two. It's not going to be long at all tonight to open up the phone line. I've already received messages today with people saying that they're actually interested in getting their questions answered. So I think some people want to call in already. So we're going to open up the phone line fairly quickly tonight. But side by side with that, like we usually say, if you got questions through means of comments, feel free to throw your comments in. We do always kind of take preference to those people that are calling in, because it's a bit easier to understand exactly what they're asking about in terms of their journey. But then side by side with that, what we can also do is try our best to answer any questions that come through on the chat as well. So if you are joining us for the first ever time on the Impact Show, could you please write in the comments first time? And if you are coming back, if you're joining us again, if you've been on the Impact Show before, if you've got value from the show before, feel free to just write in the comments, been here before. Okay, so they're the 2 sets of comments we're expecting right now: been here before or first time. Okay, let me know who is viewing today so I can know who's here and I can know who showed up for tonight's show. Now, I'm extremely, like I've mentioned it already, I'm extremely looking forward to tonight's show for a number of reasons. Yes, I'm looking forward to the calls. Yes, I'm looking forward to the questions. I'm also looking forward to the comments and the chat that you guys are going to share. But I'm also looking forward to share with you guys a few insights. These are things that I guess I can say I raised in one of the previous live streams. And it was interesting because when I raised these before, I don't know if anyone really took these messages to heart. But tonight I'm going to be sharing with you some real insights about the property industry, what's taking place right now, stuff that if you are a serious investor, and again, serious investor doesn't mean you've got 100 properties. It doesn't mean you've got 10 properties. A serious investor could be someone who's serious about their investment journey. So again, I'm not saying, if you've got no properties, you're a serious investor, but you can be serious about investing if you have no properties. But we're going to be talking about something that, whether you are a Uber investor, you've got 10, 20, 30 properties, or whether you're really early in your journey, you've got 1, 2 properties, or maybe even no properties and just a plan, or maybe you don't even have a plan yet, but you're at that early stage. This is going to be the live show where you're going to see something that's going to be extremely helpful for you. One of the biggest things I like to do with people on their property journey is help them dispel the myths. And today's show, we're going to be doing that. We are going to be doing that. So like I said, without further ado, phone line is open. Okay, we are opening up the phone line as we speak, so you can call in with your questions without any delay. So if you look up here, you can see the call-in number. Feel free to get that number, grab that number and call in, and straight next to that is the access code. So as you call in, that call will be routed through. We'll get you on, and we'll be able to share some value with the community in order to help not only yourself move forward, but also the people in the community who may have similar questions. So again, like I said, if you're here for the first time, if this is the first time you've ever been on YouTube live with us, if this is the first time you've ever been on the live show with us, feel free to just write in the comments first time. And if you are someone who's coming back again, then just write been here before or back again. All right, so what I want to do, we've opened the phone lines, so feel free to call in whatever your questions are, whether they're advanced property questions, early stage property questions, and we'll get those questions answered. But I wanted to get today's show started off by actually sharing something which I thought was extremely interesting when I saw this earlier on in the week. And this is the funniest thing, like there are so many things that pop up throughout the week, which I find to be extremely funny. And again, last week's show, one of the things I said on last week's show is for some people, they assume the storm is over. Okay, some people assume that the storm is over. And one of the things I said, again, I wasn't trying to make this difficult or complicated for people. But when I said last week, for those of you who think the storm is over, we will find out. Okay. And this is the funniest thing, like in this world we live in, we have people who make assumptions, okay? And a lot of the time we make assumptions based on the information we are given, which is nothing wrong with that, making assumptions from the information you're given. But the issue becomes when the information we're given is coming from uncredible sources, okay? And I want you to keep that in your mind as we talk about this today. Uncredible sources, they're just usually the worst sources you can have. Sources that are not going to help you, sources that are not trying to push you forward, sources that do not have your best interests at heart. And these are the sources you want to effectively try to stay away from, okay? So we're going to go straight into this. I'm going to share this with you guys so you can see it. Hopefully it shows properly on the screen. All right, so this is a newspaper article from the Express. Most of you should be familiar with who the Express is, okay? Very popular UK newspaper. Now, if you're tuning in from, abroad and you're not from the UK, you're not from the United Kingdom or the surrounding countries, then again, you may not be familiar with the Express. It's not one of the biggest newspapers in the UK, but it is a well-known UK paper. And the Express say something very, very interesting in their opening headline on this article. And this article, okay, I can't see it on here, but this, okay, there you go. Saturday, apologies, the 13th of June. So this was released today. Okay, this was released today. It was updated earlier on this morning at 11:41. Now, this is why I wanted to share this with you. Just check this headline now. It says UK property warning. Okay, so you're being told by the Express, okay, by the Express, a very credible, well-known news reporter in the UK, that there's a UK property warning. So this is the reason why I bring this stuff up when we do these live shows. Yes, I want to answer your questions, guys. Yes, I want to give you as much value as possible. But there's another component to these shows. I actually want to share with you guys kind of sometimes the way I think as a property investor, the way I see, newspapers, articles, other investors say certain things, and kind of what it does for me in terms of my investing rationale. So here, let's jump straight into it. It says UK property warning, first time buyers risk being frozen out of the housing market. So again, if you're someone who's watching this and you're absolutely brand new to property, you haven't even bought your own first residential property, and you're thinking, how can I do this? This kind of news, what is this kind of news going to do to you? Okay, someone write in the chat, what would this news do to you if you just read that headline alone? Okay, if you read that headline alone as a first-time buyer trying to get into the property market, UK property warning, first-time buyers risk being frozen out of the housing market. How would that make you feel if you are a first-time buyer? If you're a first-time buyer and you're watching this, let us know in the chat how that would make you feel. If you're someone who's already bought property, but you can imagine being a first-time buyer again and reading an article like that, how would that make you feel? Okay. Now, the reason I'm asking this question is because 3 weeks ago, on one of the live shows, we had a gentleman call in, and this gentleman was in that specific predicament. He was saying, look, Samuel, I'm brand new to property. I've never bought a property before. I just want to know from your opinion, you're doing the Q&A show. Is it actually worth getting into property now? Is now the right time? And then he started to elaborate and say he's a first-time buyer trying to see if he can get into property, etc., etc. So guys, I want you to let me know, okay? You let me know. If you read that headline and you were brand new to property, what would you be thinking about your chances to get into property. Now let's keep going through the article. It says first time buyers face being frozen out of the housing market as risk averse banks pull popular deals for those with the smallest deposits. And everybody knows that the people who generally pay the smallest deposits are first time buyers. And if you didn't know that, first note to write down. And let's go into it. They play, this 7-8 minute video clip from someone in the BBC, basically breaking this down. They call him an expert, but let's just read through what it says. It says, although buyers may be hoping to capitalize on mortgage deals with record low rates due to the lockdown, banks have limited the number of mortgages available for those with just 10% deposits. Lenders, including Virgin Money, Clydesdale Bank and Accord, have pulled home loan deals for those who can only manage a 10% deposit, with some saying they cannot cope with the level of demand. Now look, this is a key that you need to look out for when you read these mainstream newspapers. They're saying that some of these lenders, okay, some of these banks, some of these mortgage lenders have said they can't keep up with the demand. Okay, so it's not just them saying, oh, we're not happy to do this. They're also saying there is an excessive demand. I hope you're paying attention to that. I'll keep going. It says Coventry Building Society announced yesterday it would introduce 10% deposit deals, but only for 4 days because of the huge demand expected. And again, we see here this word demand. And what do I say every week, guys? If there's someone who's on the live show right now who's been watching for at least the last 4 or 5 weeks, what do I say every single week about property and about business? Okay, because if you're gonna do property successfully, you're gonna be running your property as a business. You're gonna be running your property business just like any other business. And what I say every single week is business operate off 2 guiding principles, and they are supply and demand. And these lenders are telling you something. There's a demand. There's so much demand that one particular bank, Coventry Bank, have said they're only going to open up the opportunity for 10% deposits for 4 days. Guys, what does that tell you? There is demand. Okay, let's keep going. I'll read a little bit more before we jump into something else. Okay, it says a month ago, the housing market was given the green light to reopen after 7 weeks of lockdown. Okay. And again, this was something that we reported on the show, which a lot of people are really happy about. It says, however, some experts say that if first time buyers cannot get mortgages big enough to buy homes, the property market will still stall and prices could fall. Okay, so let me read one more paragraph before we jump off this. It says, when the market shut down on March the 27th, more than 30 lenders withdrew mortgages for those looking to borrow 90% because they could not carry out physical valuations on houses. Since the market has reopened, only a handful of banks have reintroduced them because of the additional risk they entail. Now look, guys, one of the things I want to start by sharing with you is this, okay? Not everything they say to you is as it is. Okay, if you're a mortgage broker, or if you're speaking to mortgage brokers, or if you're someone who's been on the show for a few weeks, you will know what mortgage brokers are saying, because I've been sharing with you guys what different mortgage brokers have been saying. Mortgage brokers within my community, mortgage brokers outside of my community, etc., etc. Now, one of the things that are interesting is, even during lockdown, many mortgage brokers were still finding ways in order for investors to get lending. And the key primary way they were doing that is through what we call AVMs, okay? So automated valuation models. So basically they had computers calculating the value of a property in order to do refinances, i.e. remortgages, and then side by side with those remortgages, also to do valuations for people who wanted to lend money to buy property. Now, when I read an article by The Express, and this article alludes to the fact that, 90% of a mortgage value cannot be given because of physical valuations, that tells me, when I know brokers are saying, no, we're doing AVMs, we're doing automated valuation models for a number of our deals, and they're still going through, that tells me that something doesn't add up there. Okay. And this is the issue a lot of the time. Like I was saying at the beginning of the show, some people get all of their information from specific sources, and those specific sources, like I say nearly every week, have no interest in benefiting you. And because they have no interest in benefiting you, why should they tell you the information that you actually need? Now, the first and foremost thing to understand from this article is they are trying to deter first-time buyers. And why are they trying to deter first-time buyers? They say they're trying to deter first-time buyers because there are not many lenders who are still providing such a product where you can put a 10% deposit down. But the reality behind all of this, which I've been sharing for weeks in and weeks out, which I find extremely interesting, is that there's actually something going on economically in the country. In our nation, in the United Kingdom, right now, there are economical factors which are creating an issue for these banks to be able to freely offer these 90% mortgages. Okay, this has got nothing to do with valuations, because if it had anything to do with valuations, what they would do is they would do an automated valuation and they would down value the property, or they'd overvalue the property and they'd rectify that a year or 2 years later if they could. But the reality is it's got nothing to do with that. Okay, it's got nothing to do with that. So guys, I want you to be those people who are out here. If you are investing in property, or if you're thinking about investing in property, don't just be led astray, okay, by the news. Don't just be led astray by these articles which come out, which apparently purport to have all the information that you need, okay, because a lot of these things do not have the information that you need. A lot of these things have a narrative that they're attempting to share with you in order to send you in a particular direction, which 9 times out of 10 isn't actually the direction you want to go in. So I want to encourage you in that regard to stay focused on the actual real points. Okay, stay focused on the real points. So if you've got a plan in your property business, let's say your plan is to buy 3 properties in the next 3 years, be focused on that. Be focused on that, and be focused on all the information that supports you to be able to do that. Not all of the contrary information which is trying to shut you down before you've even started. Because this is what happens so many times. We get people getting shut down before they've even started. And to me, it's ludicrous, because at the end of the day, you know, there's opportunities out there. There are excessive amounts of opportunities out there. So I wanted to start us off by sharing with you guys that article from The Express. I thought it was extremely interesting. I thought there was a lot there to be shared, a lot that people would basically get value from. But I also want to go into this right now. So this is the BBC. Okay, so this is not national news. This is now global news. Okay, so the BBC report news globally, and obviously predominantly in the UK, British Broadcasting. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is because this, I'm going to share this with you guys. Hopefully you guys are going to start seeing the kind of stuff I've been trying to share with you guys every single week, and start seeing the pattern. Okay, so this was released on the 11th of June. Okay, so the 11th of June, just a couple of days ago, released on the 11th of June. What does it say? Coronavirus may have huge impact on property markets. Okay, so on the 11th of June, the BBC, okay, one of the biggest reporters of news in the UK and potentially in the globe, you know, start saying that the coronavirus may have massive impacts. Okay, so I'm going to read just these first couple paragraphs. Again, if you guys want these articles, just write in the chat, send us the article, or just write in the chat, link to the article, and I'll send in the links so you guys can basically check these out yourself. It says, the saying, I'm not going to read that first paragraph. I'll come back to it. It says, after all, most of us have been locked down in our house or apartment for a very long time. The coronavirus pandemic will, however, do more than change the way we might feel about our homes. It has the potential to have huge impact on property markets around the world. Now listen to this. It says, it is fairly clear that with massive unemployment, wage cuts, business failures, and job uncertainty, many people are likely to be cautious about making the biggest investment of their lives, buying a home. Now, look, this is something interesting as well, because I've been saying this again for weeks on the live shows. Why is it that we have mainstream media talking about a whole bunch of things, but not talking about what's going on economically to our financial system right now? So you can see here in this article, you know, published on the 11th of June, a couple of days ago, they're alluding to a whole bunch of stuff that are going on, but nobody's reporting this stuff. What they're reporting is, you know, the lockdown. They're reporting Boris. They're reporting all of these figureheads and all of the commentary they've got to say each day. But they're not necessarily reporting the effect of what's going on the economy, which I've been speaking about since the middle of March. which is fairly interesting. Why? Because like I've said for months and for years, I do not look at the British economy on its own. I look at the American economy, which the British economy a lot of the time follows, and you see a lot of trends. So if I see something happening in the American economy, like on the 23rd of March in the American economy, I saw that the stock market was heavily tanking, and you know what happened a couple of days later in the UK market, exactly the same thing. Okay, so this is the same thing here. We've got the BBC speaking about economic turmoil, but not saying anything about where this economic turmoil is coming from, just talking about the coronavirus and the pandemic. So let's keep going. It says after I'll go back to the same paragraph. It is fairly clear that with massive unemployment, okay, one factor they're talking about. They then go on to say wage cuts, okay, business failures, okay. These things have not necessarily been in the news. Okay, they have not been publicizing that we are going through excessive business failures. We're going through excessive wage cuts. They have not been publicizing this. They have been assuming that all the publicity has been around there's a virus. And when everything's sorted with the virus, when the government decide how we go back and everything goes back to normal. But this shows you that their thought process is very different to that. But anyway, let's keep reading through it. It says business failures and job uncertainty. Many people are likely to be cautious about making the biggest investment of their lives, buying a home. And obviously this relates effectively to residential purchases and not necessarily to investment. But let's keep going. It says normally that leads to falling house prices. And during the last recession, okay, now they're actually correlating where we're at now economically to the last recession. So let me keep going. And credit crunch, that is what we saw in the UK, US, and many other countries. I'll read just the rest of this paragraph and show you the chart, which I wanted to show you guys before we push on. It says in the UK, the nationwide house price index for May showed that prices fell 1.7% from the previous month, the largest decline for 11 years. Okay, and you can work out when 11 years was ago. It says, but as Robert Gardner, the nationwide's chief economist, points out, there are some signs this is starting to stabilize. Okay, so they're saying there's a problem. We can see the problem. There was a dip in property activity in May, but the chief economist is saying we can see it starting to stabilize. Let me keep going on. It says, he adds that this is because the current situation is not a typical economic downturn, okay? Whenever do you have a typical economic downturn? In 2007, 2008, was that a typical economic downturn? The answer is no. It says, instead, the UK government, like others around the world, consciously decided to put much of the economy on hold. Okay, please understand that statement. Okay, I'm going to read it again. It says, instead, the UK government, like others around the world, consciously decided to put much of the economy on hold. Let's read the last part of this paragraph. It says, this was at the same time as putting in place a host of measures to support households and businesses, such as the worker furloughing scheme. Now, if you look at this chart, for those of you who are interested in charts and stuff like that, most of you know my first two degrees, my first undergraduate degree was in statistics, and my first master's I studied was in statistics, so I'm really into the numbers and stuff. But if you look at this is the UK house prices, okay, and it's showing you the year-on-year percentage change. So what that basically means is there an increase or a decrease as it pertains to UK house prices over each year from 2008. Now you can see going into 2008, there was apparently a 10% increase. Then obviously 2009, between 2009 and 2010, you see a negative, okay, let's call it 17.5, roughly just in between of 15 and 20, but a negative 17% decrease in property prices. Then again, 2010, just before 2011, we see a spike going back up, nearly meeting where it was in 2008, when we see it coming back in 2010, hitting a positive 10% increase. And then you see it kind of track between 2011, 2012, 2013, kind of around a zero difference place. And that's kind of where you call a market stabilizing. That's market stabilization, all right? According to economics, that would be market stabilization, where there's not really significant growth and there's not really significant decrease. Let's keep going here. But then you see in 2014 peak prices go a little bit higher than they were in 2008. Then you see a bit of stabilization, and these are two different purporters. This is the Nationwide and Halifax specifically. So then you start to see over the 10% a slight drop. You see on the Nationwide indicator, it goes below 5%. Halifax specifically stays up high, and then it goes down again. Now, this is the problem, okay? If you want to look at a market, you have to look at the whole market. You can't just look at certain pieces of the market. So if you're investing, for example, in London, you should look at the London market, and then you should go micro and look at the specific part of the London market where you're investing to start to understand, is there going to be increase there? Is there going to be decrease there? Is there going to be stagnation there? And that's how you start to make informed decisions about what you're going to do in terms of your investment journey, not just listening or reading or seeing something from a particular location. Now, this is what I want to do. I want you to keep this headline in your mind, and I'm going to share with you another headline. So remember, this was the 11th of June. Okay, on the 11th of June, the statement, the headline, 11th of June, okay, and again, this is the BBC, so this is why it's important as well, okay. The BBC reports on the 11th of June that coronavirus may have huge impact on property markets, okay. Just keep that in your mind. 11th of June, the BBC tells us that the coronavirus may have huge impact on property markets, and it goes on to say that potentially these impacts are what we're going to see, or what we just saw are negative impacts, okay? You might be asking the question right now, why is that relevant? This is why it's relevant, okay? This is The Guardian, okay? Again, a very well-established news reporter in the UK. Now, why is it important to go from what we've just seen, okay, with BBC to The Guardian? This is why, okay, because you're going to see something very interesting here. This article, I'll get the date up so you can see exactly why this is important, was reported on Wednesday the 10th of June, okay? So you can work out how much difference there is in time between Wednesday the 10th and between the 11th, okay? Now, if you can work out the difference between the time Wednesday the 10th and the 11th, you can start to get an idea of exactly what I'm going to say to you. So the BBC tells us on the 11th that the coronavirus may have a dramatic impact on the prices of property, and goes on to show us a plethora of information basically indicating that the price of property is going to be going down. The price of property is not basically going to be in anybody's favor. There's potentially going to be a price dip because prices generally fall when people can't buy. This is what we're basically seeing from the BBC on the 11th. The day before, okay, the day before, I hope you understand this, guys, especially those of you who are brand new to, you know what, this isn't even about those who are brand new to property. This is for everybody. This is for people who are even avid property investors, because I sit down with some very experienced property investors and I find some interesting things when I start to bring up these points, and I say, well, didn't you see that on the 11th the BBC said X, and on the 10th the Guardian said the complete opposite? Like, don't you think that there's potentially some kind of a tactic here, an agenda here to confuse people out of investing, or to confuse people out of understanding where the opportunities are? On the 11th, the BBC says coronavirus may have a dramatic effect on property prices, and goes on. We read a significant portion of the article. It goes on to say, because people are finding it hard through means of, jobs, etc., all of these scenarios, unemployment, etc., business failures, a lot of people are not going to be buying. Because a lot of people are not going to be buying, potentially the market's going to tank. Now let's have a look at this. The Guardian reports the day before, property sales recover to pre-lockdown levels across England, says Zoopla. Okay, now this is the question. Who's the Guardian, who's the BBC, and who are Zoopla? Okay, I want you to think about that, because you might be watching this, you might be a property investor, and you might be reading these articles from the BBC and saying to yourself, based on what you've read in the BBC, you're not going to be buying any properties for the next 4 months, for the next 10 months, for the next 12 months. Or you might be someone like me who's been seeing this kind of reporting taking place for over a decade and understands that if you're listening to the news, if you're listening to mainstream media about your property investment decisions, you might as well pack in your property investment game right now, because you're not going to invest. I can guarantee you're not going to invest. You can't hear something on a Wednesday and hear a complete opposite thing on a Thursday and think you're going to have a sound mind to invest in property. Okay, especially it's not going to happen. Let me say what I was going to say. Especially if you believe more in the voices that are telling you these contrary messages than you believe in your own. Okay, and this is why it's important to know what you're doing in your property business, so you can be active regardless of what the naysayers are saying around you, because it doesn't matter what they're saying. What matters is what's your agenda, what's your intention, what's your goals, what's your plans, and how you're going to move forward. Now, if you're one of those people who've heard some of the things I've said and you resonate with some of the messages I've shared already, what I want you to do is I want you to go in the description to this video, and we've got an on-demand webinar. We basically run that webinar on Mondays at 8 p.m. Be a part of that webinar. Okay, go and learn how you can take advantage in this current climate, okay, in your property journey. But let's jump back into this. It says property sales recover to pre-lockdown levels across England, says Zoopla. Okay, that's very interesting, because we just read something which was reported the next day, which said throughout the month of May, and we're only halfway through June, we're not even halfway through June yet, but throughout the month of May there was a 1.7% decrease in property price. So how does property price recover on Wednesday but decrease by 1.7% for the whole of the month before on Thursday? Okay, I want you to be thinking about this. All right, so it says online agent says pent up demand is firming up asking prices, but data shows London market has failed to rebound. Okay, so they're saying it's just a problem with London. This is Wednesday the 10th of June when this was reported. It says property sales in most of England has swiftly rebounded to the same levels they were just before the lockdown, although London lags behind the rest of the country and markets in Scotland and Wales remain closed, according to website Zoopla. Pent-up demand has also meant firmer prices, said Zoopla, with the average asking price of sales agreed in the last week 6% higher than the same week in June last year. Now, the fact that prices are 6% higher than the same week in June last year is a year-on-year metric, okay? So that's measuring 2020 with 2019, which is completely different to measuring 2020 June with 2020 May, 2020 April, 2020 Feb, okay, and 2020 January, the kind of months where we was not in lockdown or isolation, etc. I'll keep going forward. It says its figures are in sharp contrast with those from Nationwide, which last week said house prices across the UK were falling at the fastest rate since the financial crisis. Again, work out where they're correlating where we're at financially with, and you can start to see what's really going on. It says lower asking prices for homes sold over the lockdown period may drag down indices over May, but this new data suggests house price growth is set to remain positive in the next 2 months. So we're gonna be tracking that. So as long as you're coming on the live show or you're checking out the news, you will see whether they're right or wrong. And anyway, it goes on to say, said Zoopla research director Richard Donald. Last paragraph and then we'll jump off. It says, however, London's market has failed to rebound, with buyers seeking properties outside the capital as work from home policies may leave many more employees no longer needing to commute into the city. Guys, why is this all relevant? Why is this all relevant? Why do such articles from The Guardian? Why do such articles from the BBC? Why are these particular articles all relevant? And they're relevant for several reasons. One of the main reasons they're relevant is because these articles help us understand something. They help us understand what the state of the market is, and they also help us understand we can't rely on the news feed. We can't just rely on the news feed. The news feed's not created for you. The news feed is not created to help you move forward in your property journey. The news feed is created to keep you stagnant. Okay, so guys, I want you to be very, very mindful of this as you go into your property journey. The news feed is created to keep you stagnant. Okay, many people do not understand this. Many people don't even understand how this works, but that's how it works, guys. Okay, we're living in a world where there is media messages being sent to you which may not be created to favor you, which may not be created to help you move forward. If you want to invest in property, get yourself a coach. If you want to invest in property, get yourself a power team. Look, guys, this is one of the resources I created to help people move forward in their property journey. Team 10, discover your property power team. Guys, all you need to do in property is build a successful property power team and move forward. Push. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. I need to build a successful property power team and I need to move forward. And that resource, for example, Team 10, all we do in that is break down all the key players you need in order to build a successful property power team. And guys, I can share this with you from experience over years. Building a successful property power team is going to fast track your property investing way more than half of the things people are out there telling you to do. Okay, way more than half of the things, training, courses, all of this stuff, guys. Building a successful property power team, if you understand how to do that and you go ahead and do that, that's going to be one of the most valuable investments you ever make in your property journey. All right, let me jump into the comments, see what people are saying. I hope you guys are getting value. If you're getting value from the content tonight so far, write the word value in the chat. Side by side with that, press the like button so YouTube and the YouTube world will understand that this is content of value, not only for you, not only for me, but also for other property people in the community. And third and foremost, why don't you hit the subscribe button so you can be a part of our online virtual community? And when we do these live shows each week, you can be a part of them on Saturday, and when we drop a brand new video like we do every single week, you can get that video straight away on Monday. So become a part of the community. All right, guys, I got higher. Thanks for doing this, Samuel. Good evening. Okay, an evening of fantastic value, fantastic. Excellent. First time, Marcia, welcome to the show. Okay, we've got Ketty on, Nana on, we've got Osa on. Okay, Mrs. I Can Win, Get a Property. Great to see you guys, and good evening to you all as well. So guys, look, this show's for you guys. This show's not for me. This show is for you. It's to help you guys move forward. I'm a person who's extremely passionate about helping people move forward in their property journey. For those of you who do not know, for those of you who've never joined us on one of our webinars, or you've never met me in person, a number of years ago, I used to work full time as a lead practitioner in education. I used to teach teachers how to teach, and I used to teach young children A-level maths and also secondary school maths. So my passion is to give back. And it was not until I got married in 2012, started to realize that my passion is to give back to people, that I stopped just being selfish and just doing my property things for myself, and started actually opening up my doors and opening up my knowledge to other people by sharing and by saying to people, look, yeah, you can do that. This is how you do it. This is how I've done it. This is how, I'd structured the power team. This is how I do this. This is how I do that. And that's how I got into creating resources. People continue to ask me questions. Samuel, how do I move forward in this part of my property journey? Samuel, if I've achieved this, what do I do to achieve this next level? So I spend a lot of my time right now, as many of you know, just being out here, helping people move forward in their property journey through means of coaching. I have a number of coaching clients through means of my own investments and earn and learns, give people an opportunity to see how to invest in property through means of them investing with us. Again, those people have to be qualified people. They have to be people that we have some kind of connection or relationship with, and we build that relationship through means of meeting people on all these various platforms. So guys, if we can help you in any way, shape or form, feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for, and that's what we love to do. So gonna say it again, phone line is open. Okay, the number is here on the screen. Side by side with that also is the access code. Feel free to call in if you have any property questions that you want answered. We are here to help you, whether they be questions about investing, whether they be questions about being a first-time buyer trying to get property for the first time, whether they be questions about doing creative strategies. We specialize in a whole bunch of creative strategies, whether it be property sourcing, whether it be rent to rent, whether it be lease options, purchase lease options, option agreements, management agreements, etc., a number of stuff and things that we've done. Now, this is another resource that I created a number of years ago called 30 Ways in 30 Days, a resource that we continually update. This is called 30 Ways in 30 Days, multiple ways to generate revenue using property. In this resource, when I created it, what we basically did is we went through 30 different ways that we knew that could be used to help you make money from property. Now, you might might be like someone I spoke to earlier on today. I spoke to an amazing lady earlier after a webinar I was on. And she said to me, Samuel, it takes so much money. She doesn't have the money. It takes so much money to do property. And I said, no, it doesn't if you know a few creative ways. And this is what we've been sharing with people for a number of years, how you can creatively control property, how you can creatively invest in property, how you can work with other people to put your funds to use. So you're not even expending any time, but you're still generating a revenue. So that resource, 30 ways in 30 days, we have 30 separate ways you can generate revenue using property, and about 60% of those ways are what we call low money down approaches. So they don't take much money, but really what they take is insight, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and that's really the key to the game. So as I said, the phone lines are open, guys. Feel free to let us know if there are any specific questions you have. You can call in. For those of you who are on the show, if you've got chat comments, feel free to write those chat comments down below so we can see in the comments if you have any questions, and we can answer those questions for you as well. Okay, guys. So just going to go back into the chat, make sure we've got all of those questions and comments covered before shifting into our next segment. Excellent. I can see a few of you said that you've had some challenges with the video freezing. I do apologize. I do hope and pray that the audio is perfect. I hope that you can hear me clearly and that you're still at least being able to engage with the content that we've shared with you guys. Hopefully that will be of help to you. Okay. So guys, let me know what else you want us to cover in the show. Like I've done, I've given you kind of some of my insights, but this show's about you guys. So let me know if there's specific things you guys would like to get covered. For me, as I've mentioned, I just find it extremely funny how so many people rely on the news to make their investment decisions, when unfortunately we can clearly see from the news does not have your best interest at heart. So you have to be really, really mindful about doing that, okay? Because the news are not trying to help you become a successful property investor. The news, if anything, are trying to deter you so that you do not spend your time doing the right things as it pertains to your property journey. So I want you guys to keep your head on your shoulders in that regard and know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, now for those of you who are brand new to the show, never been on the show before, I want to let you know about our free resource. Okay, this is the sourcing blueprint. Okay, now this blueprint is absolutely free. You can get it on the link that is at the bottom of the screen, www.impactproperties.co.uk/sourcing blueprint. And this blueprint is basically it's a free ebook. It's a guide. It's a guide for you to start to understand how you can start to source and secure properties. Now, sourcing and securing properties is the activity of finding property opportunities, securing those property opportunities using contractual agreements, and then selling those property opportunities to other people in property, other investors who potentially could give you a revenue through means of you providing those opportunities for them. Or side by side, if you're like me, you might choose to take those opportunities for yourself. So rather than just selling them on and making a one-off fee, you can basically take on those properties, control those properties, or own those properties and make residual income through means of the rent that is available. So I'm going to put the link for that in the chat, and feel free to go and take full advantage of that if that's something of interest to you. Side by side with that, we mentioned earlier on our on-demand webinar, which is basically available for you guys to go register and take full advantage of as well. That webinar, the link is in the description of this video. So again, you don't have to go far in order to get that. By going to the link in the description of this video, it would say that next Monday we have our next webinar available, and you can jump onto that webinar free of charge and get more value, starting to understand how you can move forward in your property journey. Guys, this is all about sharing. That's why we do this show, so we can share with you guys the insights. I remember at the beginning of lockdown, we had so many people reach out to us on WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, basically saying, look, Samuel, I'm concerned, we're worried, we've got this going on, we've got tenants leaving, we've got, the government saying it's a pandemic, it's a lockdown, we've got tenants saying, look, they don't need to be at work in London, so they're just moving out of London, they're going back to their places of residence. What do they do? How are they going to keep their properties covered in terms of rent, etc.? And guys, this is how we ended up doing this show. This show was not just put on so that we could just do something. Okay, I've got a beautiful family, love spending time with my family, like I'm sure many of you guys have as well, and like I'm sure many of you guys do as well. And the reality is, rather than me being able to answer 100 questions from every single person through means of WhatsApp or through means of Zoom and etc., I said, look, let's just put ourselves out there publicly. Let's start the live show. Let's do a show where people can phone in and people can ask their questions. And we've been doing this for a number of weeks now. And as a result of doing this for a number of weeks, we've had a number of weeks of people calling in with so many pertinent questions in terms of what they're doing in their property journey and where they need help. So it's been great to be able to strategize with so many of you over the weeks. And again, like I said, for some people, maybe they think the storm is over. Maybe they don't have any need to strategize at this present point. But I want to assure you that if you keep pushing through property, you always find there's hurdles which you need to strategize through. And hopefully, we're going to be able to support you and be there with you and share with you, value in terms of what we're doing, but also side by side with that, how we can help you to move forward in your property journey if that's what you need. So guys, take full advantage of the free resource. Okay, go grab the Sourcing Blueprint ebook. That's going to help you. Okay, absolutely free. That will help you start to understand, okay, so if I just do these 3-4 steps, I could put myself in a position where I could actually start to sell deals and generate a revenue. Or if I just did these 3-4 steps, I could put myself in a position where I can actually control new assets, which I was unable to control before because I just didn't have this knowledge or this framework, which is even more important. So again, guys, this is why we do this, and this is what we're here for. Now, just gonna have one last check in the chat, and then straight after that, if there are no questions, we're gonna jump off for tonight's show. So just checking through the comments. Okay, if you guys have comments, feel free, or any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat as well. Okay, good stuff. So it looks like everybody's got their questions answered. I hope you guys got value from what we were sharing in terms of the news articles as well. That was something we really wanted to make sure we did. But what I want to encourage you to do is, if you haven't already, go and watch this video, What Comes First, Deals or Investors. That's going to be a very powerful video for you to go and watch. And side by side with that, after you've watched that video, go and watch one of our previous live Q&A, Strategies in a Storm, where we strategize with those investors that have called in order to move forward in their property journey. This is Samuel I Can Win. I'm signing out. I know you got value, so have a great day.